But there are still efforts to reduce carbon emissions as part of the state's greenhouse gas goals. In a few weeks, a new rule will go into place aimed at reducing the number of trucks on the road that use gas or diesel. The Advanced Clean Truck Rule was first introduced in California. It mandates that manufacturers increase the percentage of zero-emission trucks they sell. Oregon is following California's lead, along with 11 other states. Our state's rules start in 2025, so in a little over 2 weeks. Now, the percentage of zero-emission vehicles they're required to sell is set to increase over the next decade. The exact percentage varies by type of truck. Next year, it's 7% for things like a tractor truck, to 11% for rigid trucks like box trucks. As you can see here, it goes up over time until 2035, when 75% of the rigid trucks on the road are expected to be zero emission, 55% of pickups, and 40% of tractor trucks. Now, at least one Oregon lawmaker is hoping that plan will be delayed. Representative Shelley Bosshart Davis is a Republican representing the Albany area. She comes from a trucking family, and she herself owns and operates a 35-truck operation. She says right now, Oregon does not have the infrastructure in place to support electric trucks, and in some cases, the vehicles themselves simply don't exist.
The heavy-duty pickup, think of your F-250 or F-350, there are no plug-in electric vehicle options. So there's that, right? So they just are not available. Then you look at your RVs, because the RV world is actually kind of poking their head up, looking around and saying, why does this apply to us? There aren't electric options. And if there were, they'd be very expensive, and the infrastructure just isn't there to plug them in. So this also includes RVs. And then you also look at your over-the-road heavy-duty truck. The gross vehicle rating, the gross vehicle weight rating isn't there. You can only haul up to 80,000 pounds with that, even though here in Oregon we can haul up to 105.5. So it doesn't work in that application. And also, if you were to drive through Oregon on I-5 from Washington to say California, there is no place other than one place in Portland that has a commercial supercharger in order to even plug in your heavy duty over the road truck.
Oregon's Department of Environmental Quality says manufacturers will have some flexibility in what they sell while the market develops new EVs. So if they don't have big EV trucks or RVs to sell, they can meet those percentages by selling things like electric school buses instead. In fact, just today, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced $6 million in grant funding to help the state buy 26 zero-emission school buses. This is video right here of new electric school buses in Beaverton, funded last year by the EPA. The money will also go toward creating chargers for the buses. And Oregon DEQ says the state is also investing in bringing new public chargers online for big commercial vehicles along the I-5 corridor. They're planning to break ground on one in the Salem area next year. They told us, quote, "We recently received $102 million in funds along with California and Washington under the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant to install electric charging stations and hydrogen stations along I-5. Oregon is receiving $21 million to install 2 publicly accessible MHD charging stations and 1 hydrogen station. Representative Bosshart Davis says she'd rather see some middle ground here. Things like incentives for people to buy newer trucks that still run on gas but with fewer emissions than older trucks. But she does believe zero-emission trucks can work for some industries.
In some applications, I think this works. In some applications, like garbage trucks, delivery vans, those that stop every night and where this equipment is actually available, those applications can work. Let's encourage those businesses and encourage those applications to go ahead and upgrade if they want to. And I would suggest if the market wanted these types of vehicles, then we wouldn't need these mandates in order to push them to buy them, that they would be readily available.
DEQ says they expect most of the vehicles affected by the incoming rules to actually fall under a category like that, traveling 100 miles or less per day and charging at a private location instead of a public charger. DEQ is also taking public comment on new regulations to reduce diesel emissions, and they recently had a listening session on exactly that. We'll explore that tomorrow night right here on The Story.